Welcome to our wastewater treatment plant here in the City of Vacaville. How many people have been here before? A lot. Okay, so for those of you who didn't raise your hands, that means you haven't been here before. You are in for a treat. Not many people really understand the fact that the City of Vacaville, we were just doing our budget overview last night. Our budget is about $180 million a year. And the largest piece of our budget is in this operation here. You would think it's the police department. That is the largest chunk of our general fund budget. But the biggest expenditure of the city overall, by and large, is our utility operation run right here. And this is our wastewater treatment plant. So when anything goes down your drain, you flush, you take a shower, it goes down your sink, it goes into pipes, and all those pipes end up here. And then we do all kinds of very interesting, highly regulated and complicated things with that wastewater. And so is there a list of welcomes prepared for me? No. Okay, so I'm going to do this off the top of my head, but we do have some wonderful dignitaries here, and there is a little bit of a pecking order to that introduction, so I'm going to try to do my best to make sure I stick with it, and if I mess it up, forgive me because I'm doing it off the top of my head. So first off, federal representative, we have Brandon Minto here from Congressman Garamendi's office. And did I see Catherine Baxter or someone from Lois Wolk's office, or Brandon from Jim Frazier's office? Not here today. Okay. We have from the County Board of Supervisors, Skip Thompson. And then, of course, our fabulous City Council, our Mayor, Len Augustine, our Vice Mayor, Curtis Hunt, and then Councilmember Diana Harris. Did I miss any other elected officials? We have former elected officials here. Mike Reagan, Board of Supervisors as well, former member. And lots of great people from the community. We have Becky Craig, our new Chamber Director in the Chamber of Commerce. We have Melissa Laughlin here from Visit Vacaville. Thank you for being here. And a whole host of other people that have been involved in this project that are too numerous to mention, but we have a great team of city officials here to answer your questions, the contractors here, the architects here, engineers. This was quite a feat of engineering because as our Director of Utilities explained it to the council about 2 weeks ago, putting this project together was, in his estimation, I felt this was a really good analogy, the equivalent of doing brain surgery or major surgery on a body part while the body's still working. And he described it as taking your engine apart and doing major engine work while you're driving down the freeway. So this plant, this filtration facility behind us here, adds a special level of treatment that was mandated by the state of California back in the late 1990s. And there was a long drawn-out battle relative to the treatment facility that we built here today. And so the state has been both the cause and our partner in this process, and without the state of California, we would not have received these state revolving loan fund loan that helped us to deliver the project in a way that didn't put the city in a real bind. Our residents are paying much higher rates towards their sewer bills, but it is something that puts us on par with a lot of other communities that have wastewater that goes into the delta. So all of this water that's processed here ends up in cash flow. So it's important that we be a good shepherd of the environment, and this plant does that for us. So we have got lots of comments. I don't think I need to say anything more other than to say welcome and thank you for being here. I'm very, very proud of the team that made this project happen. It's been extremely challenging, not only running the plant while it was being built, but making sure that the design worked and that we're able to continually meet the state standards for removing nitrates and filtering out pollutants. And so it's a constant battle, and our team that works out here does a fabulous job. And you're going to get a chance to see all of that today. So I'll turn it over to Mayor Len Augustine for some comments. Len.
Great. Well, following Laura is always a difficult thing because she really is involved in everything that happens in the city and does a great job. And She deserves a round of applause because she's been leading this effort. You know, as a little boy growing up back in Pennsylvania, I used to like to play with projects like this. I used to build little lighting systems with clay pots and put them down the sidewalk and so forth. And back in those days, that was the beginning of electricity, by the way, when I was a little boy. So, seriously, I've always enjoyed coming down to the courtyard or out here to Easterly to see all these wonderful machines that work. When we got a concrete crusher that tore up old pavement down at the courtyard, I was right down there, Johnny, on the spot. I had to see that machine and see what it did, and I get really excited about this. This is really an incredible project here, and you're here at a wastewater treatment plant. Do you smell anything that looks bad, smells bad? No. You see anything that looks like it's out of sorts or, you know, just junk laying around? No. They really keep this place clean, neat, and very operating well. So I want to thank Overy, who has been the construction people out here who built this plant, filtration, and as was said, denitrification. Some of the strange things is that we take the nitrates out and then the farmers put it back in down the road because they need it for growing their plants. And so some of the things that we're required to do seem to be more than we need to do. We were the first city after all the regulations changed in January of about, let's see, probably 2004, something like that. When they changed and all these new requirements were put on us, tertiary treatment, you know, reverse osmosis, all those kinds of things that really added to the cost. The original project when we designed it was $84 million. Took it to the regional board and came back, it was $324 million. And I think the final product, when it's all completed, will be about 250, which is pretty much of a savings, about $75 million. So I want to congratulate our city for working so hard on a project that was the first out of the box in the state of California with all these new requirements. They've done a great job, and I appreciate all their efforts. They gave me a couple of talking points here. It's almost like David Letterman's top 10. Some of them are kind of cute, like the amount of water that passes through the filtration plant in a single day is enough to fill the Zenino Stadium football field 20 feet deep. So if you take anything away from this, if you remember that, you'll be doing good. The other thing is that nitration and the filtration has brought the clarity of this wastewater which comes through here to the point where it's almost drinking water. And there's something like 3 billion gallons a year that is processed through here. So we plan on trying to make use of that. Royce Cunningham and his staff is currently looking at what the benefits might be to be able to use it as gray water. We put it out in what they call purple lines. Is that right, Royce? Purple lines, and then we can reuse it for irrigation or for other processes. Laura covered so much of what I was going to say that I'm not going to just beat my gums here. But I want to thank you all for coming out. I'm really proud of what has happened out here, and your tax dollars are really being put to good use. It is going to be helpful to the environment, there's no doubt about it. There were some requirements that were kind of silly. I went to the regional board and testified one time because they call Little Alamo Creek, they call it freshwater, cold water fish habitat. Now, if you live in Vacaville, you know in the summertime there's no such thing as cold water running down the stream. It's like 110 or 105 degrees outside, and fish can't survive in a little creek. And particularly in the summertime, there's hardly any water in it. So we managed in that day to knock $50 million off of the project. And it was just by good fortune because there was a forestry issue related to Northern California. And they were saying that the requirements placed on them was too great, and it wasn't considering the economic impact. And so the representative was said, well, who is this person that you're talking about? He said, well, our state senator would like to see some relief. He said, well, if your state senator was really interested, he'd be here and not you. And I thought that was rather crude. I'm just going to tell you like it is, because that's how sometimes you deal with the bureaucracies that we face in this state. Fortunately, they all went out in the hallway and arguing about things, and I walked up to the chairman, who is the mayor of West Sacramento now, and said, I've got to be down back in Vacaville. I wonder if I could brief our item on this cold water fish habitat. And he said, sure. I looked down the road, and there were 5 members there. They needed 9, so I was going to need a vote of 5-0. in order to get our point made possible. And so they allowed me to speak early. Everybody who was probably battleless was out in the hallway, so they voted 5-0 to get rid of that cold water fish habitat requirement. So sometimes luck is better than knowledge. And I do again want to thank you. I don't want to make light of this whole situation. I am so proud of the people that work down here and the work they do. You know, during this entire process, they had to run the plant. And running the plant is not an easy thing. You cannot have a spill, you cannot have a discharge that has any toxins, chemicals, and so forth in it up to a certain standard. And during that entire time, I don't think we had one spill or any problems that associated with it. If we did, it was very minor. And I will tell you that that takes a lot of really hard work and dedication on the part of the people who are trying to run something. It's kind of like trying to use your transportation while your car's in the garage, you know. And so I want to thank them. The people down here do a great job day in and day out. And it's 24/7, 365 days a year that they got to monitor and make sure everything's going perfectly. So that's my number one today reward is the fact that we got such wonderful employees. And having said that, thanks again for being here. And I want you to take a look through this place. So please, at the end of this program, there will be tours that go through. You want to take a look at the plant and see where your money's going. It was well spent. And we will certainly make use of the fact that our water coming out of here is very, very clean. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now we have Jeff Nath, who's the manager from Overall Construction. Come on up, Jeff. Say a few words about your new project.
Thank you. So just a little bit of history. So for Overa, this is actually the largest project in our 108-year history that we have ever undertaken and finished successfully. It was a two-stage process. It was the denitrification facility, which we publicly bid and were low bidder on, which was substantially complete before we started the second project. Together they represented over 300,000 craft hours to build these facilities, which is just an enormous, enormous effort. And I can't tell you how difficult construction is. Particularly, this is the pretty part, and you're going to walk through it, and honestly, this is the most amazing thing that my team has ever built. It's just fabulous, so please take a walk through the gallery. You'll just be amazed at the level of complexity and craftsmanship that was required to successfully build it. But the hard part you won't look at because it's in the north plant, and we really need to start with the fact that everything we've already said, it's so difficult to build in an existing environment, and it could not possibly succeed without a huge amount of coordination and effort. So there has to be, much kudos thrown out to Royce and Steve and the entire operations and maintenance group that helped us work in their operating facility, because I promise you we tore it completely apart. And that took an awful lot of daily coordination. So our superintendents, Bud and Bill, were working with plant staff on a daily basis to make sure we didn't cut into the wrong line or block the wrong access, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it was really, really a great effort on the north plant. So who refereed all of that? Really, it was the construction manager, Harrison Associates, and particularly Kim and Tom. They did a fabulous job coordinating all that effort, because honestly, it's a hard business, and they were playing referee as much as they were playing construction manager at many times, and did just an outstanding job with it. So again, sincere thanks to the entire Harris team, because they just did a fabulous job. But the first project, D-Night, to many degrees, was looked upon as a little bit easier because the milestone dates for operational completion were a little bit easier, and there's really just expansion of what you already had and upgrades and modifications. But this monster, you've never had to deal with tertiary treatment before. So the number one milestone, or what we like to call rock in the road from the beginning, is how in the world are we going to get this thing started and operating correctly on time for the real date, which is right around the corner or already passed. And so I would say that one of the greatest successes is how well this facility started and operated from the very beginning. And what that really does is it speaks to the quality of the design work. So we can't possibly pass this opportunity without big kudos to West Yost and to HDR, in particular Craig. I don't think Craig's here today, but absolutely one of the best in the business from an engineering perspective. Did a great job. We really worked together as a team to put together the right group to figure out how to start it up and run it, and then the operators just took over, and it's run great ever since. So outstanding effort for the whole design team. Then the balance of it, I can't help it. Kudos to Leah. Leah came in the beginning and set the right tone from a leadership perspective, The next group that came in did a great job of building our second half of it. But it's the whole community of subcontractors, over 60, and all the manufacturers and everything. It's just a huge orchestration effort and a very, very proud moment for us to complete this. But it speaks to leadership. You know, on the ground, it was Tim and Tanya that were dealing with us on a constant basis, on a daily basis, to administrate the contract correctly. But I really have to, you know, call out Sean, because from the very beginning, when I've only been on TV once, and that was at your city council meeting, you may remember, at the award of the first project, and I stepped out of bounds a little bit, and Sean told me to calm down. So don't worry, Jeff, we're going to get through this, and we did. That was on the first project, and there were a few bid protests, etc. But we got off on the right step. But really, Sean has to be selected out to be highlighted today, because he did fight the good fight for us to get the job awarded and helped administrate the job professionally. But he was involved from the beginning in the selection of the engineer, selection of the construction manager. So it really is a team effort, and it won't be successful if you have any weak link. And I think we did an extraordinarily good job as an entire team to shore up the weak links, because I promise you there were plenty on all sides, and really did do a good job of keeping the project at focus to really pull it together as successful as it did. So again, I'm really here just to say thank you to everybody that was participating in it. It's a very proud moment for Overall Construction, and I hope you're as proud as we are what the great things this facility will do to the city for the decades to come. Thank you very much.
And you've moved on to another project, haven't you, Jeff? You guys are over in Dixon now working on the project at their wastewater treatment plant. So doing lots of great work for all the communities in our area, so thank you. Next up is Royce Cunningham, our Director of Utilities. And while he's coming up, I have a surprise in the schedule. Come on in. I want all of the utilities staff who worked on this project that are here to join him and stand behind him. So that Jeff, see you, Steve. Anybody else from actual utility? They're all out running the plant right now, but anybody else? Dustin, everybody line up behind Royce, and I want you just to take a look at these gentlemen. I don't think, then a lady, I got one, that are going to talk. You take a look at this team. On May 1st, I believe, was the deadline?
Correct.
That was the first night I got a good night's sleep. So here you go, Royce.
Thank you, Laura. You guys can all sit down. Thank you. Those are all very nice words and very nice speeches, and now I'm going to completely bore you. Like the title of a famous Charles Dickens novel, the Easterly Tertiary Project is a tale of two projects. The first project, the Denitrification project, primarily consisted of the complete reconfiguration of the aeration basins, which is the heart of the secondary treatment process. The aeration basins, which are located about 2 football fields north of us here, are like giant wine fermentation tanks, albeit instead of yeast breaking down grape juice into wine, there is bacteria breaking down wastewater into cleaner water. I need my glasses, I'm blind as a bat, I apologize for that. The mixed liquor in the basins is essentially a churning, living organism. Making the modifications on the aeration basins is akin to performing open heart surgery. While one surgical team, the construction team, was performing the physical modifications to the basins, the second surgical team, the utilities operations staff, had to keep that living organism alive in order to continue the treatment process and meet the compliance requirements of our wastewater permit with the state. This was a monumental feat. A lot of people don't understand how difficult that process is. And all of the team members, both on the construction side and on the operations side, deserve our applause. Hint, time to applaud. Thank you. The second project, the filtration project, is the building adjacent to this tent. The filtration plant is basically a standalone treatment plant, one that takes secondary effluent and treats it to a much higher quality, hence the term tertiary, which Webster defines as of third rank or value. It is the third level of wastewater treatment. Constructing the filtration plant is much like the building of the New Bay Bridge. Over the last few years, as the New Bay Bridge was being built, we continued to drive over the old bridge, observing the construction as it went. Then one day, in the middle of the night, Caltrans shifted the roadways, and the next day we drove over the new bridge. The difference with the filtration plant is that all of the equipment and pumps, and those of you that are going to go on the tour that I believe Jeff Cooley is going to lead of the filtration building, you're going to see a lot of equipment. And so all of these pumps, sand filters, they don't just switch on trouble-free, like Caltrans switching over the bridge lanes. There's a proving out process where the operation of the equipment and the effectiveness of the level of treatment is tested, repairs are made, it's retested, adjustments are made, and it's retested again until it's right. In order for this process to be successful, the construction team who built the system and has to make the physical repairs or adjustments has to work closely with the operations team who has to operate the system, monitor its performance. So this is like a dance of two dancers, but with the construction and operations teams having to periodically switch who is leading the dance. In summary, in order for the tertiary project to be fully successful, it took a monumental effort from the project planners who conceptualized it to the design engineers who turned the technical design elements into a set of working drawings, to the engineers who managed the design and construction contracts, to the construction contractor who physically built it, to the operations and maintenance staff that made it run the way it's supposed to. And in between, there are all the people from administrative staff to construction inspectors, to laboratory staff, without their contributions, the project would not have been completed on schedule, within budget, with a high degree of quality. And those are the three things we shoot for. I would like to extend at this time my personal gratitude to all of the men and women who made this project such a success. Thank you.
I wasn't totally bored. So you were wrong, Bryce. That was very interesting.
Again.
Okay, Steve, you're in the back over here. Come on up and join me. Our Director of Public Works, you're on the agenda. And I like his team from Public Works. So Tim, where's Sean? He's working on another problem at City Hall. Come on up, team from Public Works. Anybody else here today? No? Okay. I'm going to turn this over to our Director of Public Works oversees what we call capital improvement programs or projects. It's an engineering team that does the bidding, the specs, all the design work with the consultants. And so this team did the design part and construction management. And so we'll turn it over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Laura. I didn't prepare a lot of stuff to talk about, but I did want to thank the Public Works team. But as Royce has mentioned and everybody else has mentioned, it basically took all the components that are here to make this happen. From the very early stages that the mayor talked about of getting the requirements brought into something more reasonable, that we could design something like this that could actually achieve them for a price that we could, well, sort of afford. To those that had to design it and then had to get it built, and as Royce had mentioned, all of his staff that had to keep this operating without any flaws, because we don't have any room for error with that. I think one of the things that me coming into this kind of late in the game that stood out to me was we set up a leadership team because we were, as Jeff Knapp has mentioned, we had some weak links, we had some hiccups, we had some challenges that were coming up, and it was hard to get beyond some of those. So with this leadership group that came together with representation from all of the folks that are here, we were able to focus on as has been mentioned, the completion of this with the quality that we needed to meet the requirements that we had of May 1st to be providing tertiary treatment. That effort, when we first started, I think all of us were a little anxious. Were we going to be able to get this thing done on time? Were we going to have it working by May 1st? Were we going to meet all of the state's regulatory requirements? And as time went on, and we had some tough meetings, we were able to hammer out these issues. Everybody stepped up to do their part. People got out of their comfort zone a little bit, and we were able to resolve a significant number of problems in a very short period of time and have this all come together. And at times where we thought construction had fallen behind, Jeff's crew stepped up, put on extra time, got things hammered out, and then we had operations and Jeff and his staff, as opposed to being concerned about operating it, actually really anxious and excited about getting to get in there and start running this thing and getting it to operate and meet the requirements that the state had imposed upon the city. So I think it was a change of angst to then enthusiasm and excitement as we got toward the first part of the calendar year, and things were looking good. It was going into commissioning. Systems were operating. Some of them were having some problems. We got those worked out. But I think all in all, it was that focus on getting the project done and meeting the requirements that we had been given, and everybody putting aside their fears of what this was going to do to getting excited about what they could do with it. And I think that's the thing I want to applaud the entire team for, is that it came together to make this happen. And I think you'll be very impressed with the facility that we have here and what it's going to do for the city for the long term. So thank you all.
So I've been in local government for getting close on 30 years now, believe it or not, and I don't think I've ever seen a project that was more complicated and took more collaboration. Oh, look at Jackie McCall's here. She was here when this was just a concept, and so it's nice to see you back. This team that put this whole project together, we talked about how hard it was and everything that we did, and we got it done, and we're all relieved, and now it's working. I'm getting sleep at night, and hopefully the mayor, you can sleep at night too, at council, knowing that this plant is doing what it was designed to do. The next challenge is going to be keeping it operating and making sure that we meet our deadlines and our requirements in terms of standards from the state and federal government on a daily basis. It was a challenge, probably one of the most difficult challenges I think I've ever seen our team face, because it was a long duration. We're still not done yet. We have 2 more phases left to complete. The next will be a lab, and I do encourage you all to come back and see that. If you watch CSI on TV, it's our equivalent of CSI right here at the city. And then we will have a completion project, which is another phase that has a various and sundry pieces that are kind of a mixed bag. So we still have a lot more work to do. And there's one team that I want to thank, because they go unsung, but there is one team that has worked really hard together to kind of shore up the frustrations and the anger that comes out from time to time. And that's our team of department heads who work tirelessly together to help each other. And so I'd like them all to stand. We have our chief of police, our community development director, our community services director. So Carrie, Barton, John, Royce, you're part of that team. Steve, you're part of that team. Mark Mazzaferro in the back, our PIO. We have a few others who couldn't be here today, but thank you guys for helping to back up Royce and Steve when we had some tough times there during the middle of this project. It was frustrating, but it was worth it, and congratulations. And now let's go take a peek. Have fun. Thank you, everybody.